Blackjack didn't begin under neon lights, surveillance cameras, or velvet ropes. Its story starts quietly, centuries ago at wooden tables in European inns and gambling houses where cards were worn, rules were flexible, and chance was treated as both entertainment and fate. Long before the word blackjack existed, people were already obsessed with beating the dealer, reading the table, and finding ways to tilt probability in their favor. To understand how blackjack became one of the most important casino games ever created, we need to rewind to a time when gambling was less regulated, less standardized, and far more personal. Most historians trace blackjack's earliest roots to 17th century Europe, particularly France and Spain. One of the strongest ancestors of blackjack was a French game known as 21, which literally translates to 21. The objective was simple: get as close to 21 as possible without going over. Sound familiar? 21 was popular among French nobility, especially during the reign of King Louis XV, and was commonly played in private salons rather than public casinos. The rules weren't fixed, but the core idea, balancing risk and reward while competing against a dealer, was already firmly in place. One often overlooked detail in blackjack's early history is that the dealer wasn't always the house. In early European and colonial versions of 21, the role of dealer rotated among players, similar to modern home poker games. This meant there was no fixed house edge in the way we think of it today. The advantage shifted depending on who dealt, what rules were used, and how much experience each player had. It wasn't until casinos institutionalized blackjack that the dealer became a permanent house representative, allowing casinos to systematically engineer profitability. At the same time, Spain contributed its own variations. A Spanish game called 31 and references in Miguel de Cervantes' writings suggest that Spanish gamblers were already playing card games where reaching a target number without busting was the primary challenge. Interestingly, Spanish decks often lacked tens, which may explain why face cards later took on such importance in blackjack's scoring system. These early European games weren't just entertainment, they were exercises in probability, intuition, and restraint, traits that would later define skilled blackjack play. As these games spread across Europe, they evolved organically. Rules changed from region to region, dealers had different advantages, and players relied heavily on superstition and experience rather than math. There were no house edges calculated on spreadsheets, no strategy charts, and no casinos optimizing rules for profit. Gambling was still a social activity, often frowned upon by authorities, but endlessly popular among those willing to risk a little money for a little excitement. The turning point came when these European card games crossed the Atlantic. In the 18th and 19th centuries, French settlers brought 21 to North America, particularly to Louisiana. New Orleans became a major hub for gambling, and card games flourished in riverboats, saloons, and private clubs. However, American players had different tastes. They preferred faster games, clearer rules, and higher excitement. Over time, the game was simplified, standardized, and adapted to suit American gambling culture. It was in the United States that the game eventually took on the name blackjack. In the early 20th century, casinos offered special bonus payouts to attract players. One popular promotion paid extra if a player's first two cards were the ace of spades and a blackjack, either the jack of clubs or jack of spades. The bonus didn't last, but the name stuck. Ironically, the most famous hand in blackjack history no longer carries any special payout, but its legacy remains in the game's identity. Another fascinating historical quirk is that aces were not always flexible cards. In some early versions of 21, aces only counted as 1, not 11. The dual value ace, now one of the most powerful tools a player has, was introduced gradually as the game evolved. This single rule change dramatically increased volatility, excitement, and strategic depth. From a casino perspective, it also increased the number of dramatic swings at the table, which kept players engaged longer and betting more frequently. As casinos became more formalized, especially in Nevada after gambling was legalized in 1931, blackjack found its perfect environment. Unlike games such as roulette or slot machines, blackjack offered something rare: player agency. Decisions mattered. Hitting, standing, doubling, or splitting weren't just ritual actions. They had measurable impacts on long-term results. This made blackjack incredibly appealing to serious gamblers while still being accessible to beginners. An interesting cultural shift occurred when blackjack moved from backroom gambling to casino floors. Etiquette became part of the game. Rules about when to touch cards, how to signal hits or stands, and who handles chips weren't originally about fairness. They were about security and efficiency. These customs helped casinos reduce disputes, prevent cheating, and keep games moving smoothly, reinforcing blackjack's reputation as a professional table game. Casinos quickly realized blackjack's potential. It was fast-paced, social, and easy to learn, which meant more hands per hour and more money wagered. At the same time, the house edge could be finely tuned through small rule adjustments, whether the dealer hits or stands on soft 17, how many decks are used, payout ratios for blackjack, and restrictions on doubling or splitting. These tweaks allowed casinos to maintain profitability while still advertising blackjack as a fair game. The true revolution came in the 1950s and 1960s, when mathematicians began taking blackjack seriously. In 1956, a group of U.S. Army mathematicians published a paper outlining the first optimal blackjack strategy. This work laid the foundation for what would later become basic strategy charts. For the first time, players had a mathematically sound way to reduce the house edge to nearly zero under favorable conditions. Then came the bombshell. In 1962, Edward O. Thorpe published Beat the Dealer, introducing the concept of card counting to the public. Thorpe proved that blackjack, under certain rules, could be beaten consistently by tracking the ratio of high to low cards remaining in the deck. Casinos were caught off guard. For the first time, the house was vulnerable, not because of cheating, but because of math. Casinos responded swiftly. Multiple decks replaced single-deck games. Shuffle frequency increased. Rules were adjusted to restore the house edge. Surveillance teams were trained to spot advantage players. Yet instead of killing blackjack, these countermeasures only solidified its reputation. Blackjack became known as the thinking person's casino game, a battleground between player skill and casino control. During the height of the card-counting era, some casinos experimented with extreme countermeasures. There were reports of shuffling after every hand, mandatory flat betting limits, and even changes to payout structures. The now standard 3-2 payout for blackjack was briefly threatened in some markets as casinos tested alternatives to regain their edge. These experiments taught casinos an important lesson. Players were willing to tolerate many restrictions, but altering blackjack's core identity too much risked driving them away. Blackjack's connection to probability theory helped legitimize gambling studies in academic circles. During the mid-20th century, blackjack became one of the first casino games to be formally analyzed using modern statistics and computer simulations. Universities and defense research labs quietly ran blackjack models to test probability systems, decision trees, and risk assessment theories. In many ways, blackjack served as an early proving ground for concepts that later influenced finance, insurance, and artificial intelligence. By the late 20th century, blackjack had become a staple of every major casino worldwide. Regional variations emerged: European blackjack, where the dealer receives only one card initially; Spanish 21, which removes tens from the deck but adds player-friendly rules; Pontoon, popular in the UK; and double exposure blackjack, where both dealer cards are visible. Each version reflects a balance between attracting players and protecting casino profits. The introduction of continuous shuffling machines in the late 20th century marked another turning point. While marketed as efficiency tools, these machines effectively eliminated traditional card counting. Their adoption sparked debates among players, with many viewing them as a sign that casinos were prioritizing control over player experience. Despite this, continuous shufflers also allowed casinos to reduce dealer fatigue and increase table uptime, further refining blackjack's role as a revenue engine. Casinos also learned early that table layout and pacing mattered just as much as rules. The iconic semicircular blackjack table wasn't just for aesthetics, it was designed to maximize hands per hour while keeping players socially engaged. Faster dealing meant more wagers, and more wagers meant more expected profit. Even today, minor changes in dealer training or table procedures can noticeably affect a casino's bottom line over time. The rise of online casinos in the late 1990s and early 2000s marked another major evolution. Blackjack adapted seamlessly to the digital world. Online platforms introduced instant dealing, customizable bet sizes, and hundreds of rule variations. Later, live dealer blackjack recreated the casino experience for players at home, complete with real dealers and physical cards streamed in real time. Blackjack had officially entered the modern era. Today, blackjack exists in more forms than ever before. Traditional tables, side bet variants, mobile apps, and even hybrid games that blur the line between slots and table games. Yet, the core remains unchanged. Every hand is still a choice. Every decision still carries weight. Casinos continue to offer blackjack prominently because it attracts educated players, creates lively tables, and generates steady revenue when rules are properly managed. Blackjack's influence even extended into pop culture and media. Movies, novels, and television shows frequently portrayed blackjack as the ultimate beatable casino game, often exaggerating the ease of winning. While these portrayals fueled public interest, they also created unrealistic expectations. Casinos benefited from this mythos, as inspired players flocked to blackjack tables believing skill alone guaranteed success, often without fully understanding the discipline required to play optimally. International casinos adapted blackjack to local gambling philosophies. In many Asian markets, side bets became heavily emphasized, while European casinos often retained stricter rules but lower house edges. These regional differences highlight how blackjack acts as a framework rather than a fixed game, capable of being reshaped to suit cultural preferences while still remaining recognizable worldwide. Even in the modern era, blackjack continues to evolve quietly. Casinos now use data analytics to track play speed, betting behavior, and table performance in real time. While players see a familiar game, casinos see a constantly updating flow of statistics that inform staffing, limits, and rule offerings. Blackjack's long history hasn't made it static, it has made it adaptable. One of the most enduring truths about blackjack is that its popularity isn't driven solely by winning potential, but by the illusion of control. Players feel involved, informed, and responsible for their outcomes, even when the math favors the house. This psychological engagement, discovered unintentionally centuries ago, remains one of the most powerful tools casinos use today, and it's a major reason blackjack continues to thrive. In many ways, blackjack represents the perfect compromise between chance and control. It gives players just enough influence to feel empowered, while casinos retain the upper hand through structure and statistics. That balance, refined over centuries, across continents, and through countless rule changes, is why blackjack has survived when so many other gambling games faded into obscurity. From candlelit French salons to digital tables streamed across the world, blackjack's journey mirrors the evolution of gambling itself. It's a game shaped by culture, math, psychology, and economics, a living history lesson dealt one hand at a time. And as long as people believe they can beat the odds, blackjack will always have a seat waiting at the table. And that wraps up today's video. If you found this video helpful, make sure to hit that like button. It really helps the channel out and tells YouTube this is content worth sharing. Don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss another strategy breakdown, game walkthrough, or insider tip. We've got tons of guides coming your way, and you'll want to be here when they drop.
And hey, tell me in the comments what you want to see next. Whether it's roulette strategies, blackjack tips, slot myths, virtual casino breakdowns, whatever you're curious about, let me know. Your ideas shape what we create.
Before you go, if you're serious about leveling up your casino knowledge, you have to check out the Ultimate Casino Guide. I put everything I've learned into one massive, easy-to-read resource designed to make you a smarter, more confident, more prepared player. If you've ever wondered which games actually give you the best odds, how do pros manage their bankroll so they don't blow it all in an hour, what tricks casinos use, both physical and digital, to influence your decisions, how to avoid the biggest money traps beginners fall into, then the Ultimate Casino Guide will change the way you play forever. It covers psychology, probability, strategy charts, real-world case studies, VR and online casino risks, loyalty program hacks, literally everything you need to walk into any casino and know exactly what you're doing. The link is right here on the end card. Click it and start transforming the way you play. Thanks for watching. Stay sharp, play smart, and I'll see you in the next video.